In an inner-city tech facility, a large explosion occurs, and the Lizard League invades it. They're looking for a powerful serum, and under their Lizard Queen's commands, they proceed with their search. Unfortunately for the League, the Guardians of the Globe, with the exception of a few busy members, quickly showed up. The Guardians order them to stand down and surrender, but the League is too cocky to surrender to anyone, so the battle begins. Heavyweights clash with one another with every outcome possible. It's one-on-one fights everywhere, with the Guardians having the upper hand more times than not. It seems they are without the service of Darkwing and Martian Man, but things seem under control for the time being for the Guardians. But then, the facility roof starts caving in and crumbling upon them. Fortunately, it's the one-man army, Omni-Man, holding up the concrete roof all by himself. He is wearing a new white suit, and boy, the Guardians are glad to see him right now. Meanwhile, Polly went into the early stages of labor at an accelerated rate, despite not being due in 2 weeks. Dr. Brandyworth assisted Polly out of the lab and carried her through the hallway as the battle with the two forces came underway. They're going to bring the whole building down, it seems. Although Brandyworth tried to assure her otherwise, a surging wave of the developing atomic energy charges inside her body, with beams of purple light emanating from her eyes and mouth. Once outside, Polly is led into his car. Terrified, Polly believes she won't make it. Brandyworth lets her know that he'll take care of her child should the worst come to pass. As the two drive off, Omni-Man is the only one who notices the couple drive off, but pays them no heed and continues fighting the Lizard League. En route to the nearby General Hospital, Polly cries out as she has another atomic surge that signals her unborn child is moving further down her birth canal. This time, the sensation causes her to momentarily pass out. Brandyworth had luckily transported Polly to the hospital, but by the time the doctors were preparing to safely help Polly, she lets out a piercing scream as she released one last pulsing shockwave that knocks back everyone and Brandyworth. Devastated, a heartbroken Brandyworth is left with only one choice, in a C-section to save the unborn child. Erickson, along with an army of soldiers and another scientist, followed into the hospital, and Brandyworth was taken for punishment. Elsewhere, the Wilkins couple are seen embracing each other for the loss of their child as the husband claims bad things happened. However, nurse brings their supposed deceased child back to them. With her survival brings them happiness. The two decide to call her Samantha Eve Wilkins. And that is exactly how Adam Eve made it into this world, with sheer willpower and some astonishing commitment of two good people. Throughout her early life, she would stare at the molecules in the world around her. Her parents thought this behavior was odd, as she had no interest in playing with other kids. She would also draw molecules and build them out of Legos, to the utter frustration of her father. But one night, when the Wilkins couple go out on a date and Zach comes to babysit Eve and study for his chemistry test the next day, Eve does the unthinkable and teaches Zach everything about his chemistry lessons. When the Wilkinsons arrive, Zach tells all about Eve's amazing gift and thanks her for her teaching. After this, her parents decided to enroll her in a special school for gifted children, though the father is greatly disturbed by how she is not normal. Samantha did not really enjoy it, as she had no real friends there. On her first day, Eve was seen answering some multiple-choice questions and then noticed a strange man stare at her, but then disappeared. In a GDA facility, another scientist has trouble trying to create a human weapon, but the prototype cannot control even his own skin. Erickson interrupts and notices the scientist's failure, while the scientist assured him it is still working in progress. But Erickson denies his faith and tells him his failure will end up being an experiment project. The prototype is then ordered to return to his chamber, but doesn't want to, but is forced regardless. Samantha eventually made her first real friend with a girl named Val who lives right across the street from her house. A few years later, they start spending a lot of time in their treehouse and hanging out until Samantha's parents give her an earful on wasting her time rather than studying like other special kids. As Eve runs to her room crying, and later going through her science notes, she discovers her amazing powers. She's able to freeze her book and turn the sandwich her mom brought into a delicious hamburger. However, when she showed off her powers to Val, it only scared her away, which resulted in their friendship ending. Feeling depressed about losing her friend and her life, Samantha would then get kicked out of her special school and then enroll in a public one. She is miserable as once again she has no friends. None at all. Time flies by, and Samantha grows in age day by day. When Christmas comes, she turns the gifted clothes into the ones she prefers with her powers. One day, when she was playing basketball outside, she tries to make a puppy out of a squirrel, and it seems like her powers cannot conjure real-life beings. She hurries inside when she notices the same old man staring at her from a distance, just like always. As she was playing around in her bed, she accidentally put together a costume and decides to try flying on a magic shield she created. Eve finds her mojo after flying for a bit, and she is not afraid to fly up and down the skyscrapers in the city as well. Finally, Eve discovers how to fly without the shield and only using her hands like jetpacks. Samantha would start to learn her powers and use them to become a superhero known as Adam Eve, aiming to use her powers to fight crime. That fateful night, two criminals were trying to steal dogs from a shelter. As they approach the innocent animals, Eve drops down and warns them not to do it. As they mock her and call her a Powerpuff Girl, she stopped them by turning their ski masks into concrete. Eat that for Powerpuff, you morons. However, this would draw the attention of Dr. Elias Brandyworth, who talks with Eve and convinces her to listen to his story at a park. He explains to her by admitting he knows about her connections with matter and molecules, but then he hears something and leaves. Eve then leaves for the night, but it turns out the government had hidden a drone to watch them. Erickson immediately sends the creations and failed attempts to replicate Samantha's powers, her siblings, to retrieve her. Samantha sneaks back into her room, but gets caught by her mother who has been scared sick. She shouts at her and Samantha goes to bed crying. Just like any teen girl would do at that age, right? The next day, Eve then tries to track down Brandyworth, but to no avail. She tries homeless shelters, community kitchens, and even maps out possible locations to find him. While flying around looking for him, she is interrupted by a thug with a giant cannon arm called Kill Cannon, who was running away after robbing a jewelry store. In a new suit as the new Adam Eve, she is able to withstand and defeat Kill Cannon, and Brandyworth meets up with Eve. He warned her not to use her powers since it would risk revealing her existence to the government. Eve still wants answers, and at the Burger Mart, the two decide to talk. Dr. Elias reveals her mother, true mother, Polly, volunteered for an experiment procedure for superhuman soldiers. As Eve grew more stronger from altering the amniotic fluid, and upon looking at a picture of Eve, she began to cry, realizing it was wise to keep Eve in a facility, and so Elias and Polly arranged an escape, but Polly died from labor. Their talk is interrupted when Samantha hears sirens. Going to investigate, much to the frustration of Brandyworth, she finds the police fighting man-made-looking monsters at a highway. She quickly orders the police to fall back and make a perimeter after fending off a truck sent their way. After defeating a mutated monster creature with ease, she gets surrounded by the other three mutated monsters. Eve then gets up close with the monsters. One of them, Phase 2, mentions they are her family, their siblings, and Eve fights against them. She's able to defeat another one of them also, no thanks to their physical instability. She even ups her fighting skills one by one, surprising herself even at the end. But the monster humanoids are able to produce weapons from their body. She is able to halt one of the monsters temporarily, but the other one gets her. They are thrown onto the freeway, and the two of them get crushed nearly every second. Eve not only having to fight the monster, but also save the incoming vehicles and people as well. Finally, when the two monsters once again combine forces to attack Eve gravely and hold her down to finish her off, Elias shows up with a car and stops them. Phase 3 dies with the impact of the car on the spot. Angered by the disturbance, Phase 2 stops the car and finds Brandyworth, dropping him from a bridge, but Eve is able to save him. Things do not end there, as Phase 2 emerges with club arms. Eve once again learns the clones create materials from their bodies, but she cannot do that. Elias reveals the clones are able to create material weapons from their bodies. Phase 2 dies in Eve's arms after the shield is destroyed. Distraught and weakened from the fight, Samantha drops, knocked out, on Dr. Elias's arms, and just then, they are surrounded by Erickson and his men. Inside their Pentagon lab, the government intended to use both Samantha and Elias to create more of the former. Although they have restrained Samantha, she is able to break free of the shackles, much to the surprise of Erickson and his assistant. He threatens her by trying to shoot Dr. Elias and says they have another surprise for the two of them. They then revealed that Polly, Sam's biological mother, was still alive, but put in horrific condition, all so they could use her to create her unfortunate siblings. Elias goes berserk at this new development, and seeing Polly's unfortunate situation, he jumps on Erickson, and the two of them fight over the gun. Unfortunately, Dr. Elias is accidentally killed alongside Polly in the ensuing fight. Their two deaths bolstered Sam's powers, and she goes into a whole new state of power. The whole thing enraged her to the point where she would use them to erase the government officials' memories of ever trying to create her. Sam fled the scene and returned home only to find out she had missed her birthday party. She then got into a fight with her father and retreated to her room, still mourning the loss of all those involved in her birth, and was then comforted by her adopted mom, as she puts the picture of all her lost loved ones as the family picture she never had. Elsewhere, in the Grayson home, Nolan returns home from an unknown mission and encountered Debbie and Mark, who was dressed up in duct tape, calling himself Duct Tape Man, an alternate hero persona he considered using if he wouldn't get his Viltrumite powers. Nolan believed it was merely going to get him in harm's way. Debbie then decided it would be best just to be normal, and took him to the bathroom to remove his duct tape. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more awesome videos. Have a nice day.